Welcome to another episode Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Aaron.
Hello.
Aaron, if I was going to ask you what defines you, what would you say?
Man, probably I would just say just artist all
Artist?
around.
Are we talking about
Yeah,
artists with paintings, artists with what?
a little bit of everything. I started out as fine artist and kind of got tired of that whole scene and decided to rebrand myself and started blacksmithing and bladesmithing.
Oh, that's a fucking panty dropper, dude. You dropped off blacksmith. This is what interests me the most is because people think like, are they talking about the medieval days where the swords and hammer, or they think of Thor? And it's honestly a combination of the two. It's one of the most amazing things that still happens today, which is blacksmithing. You literally get to work out of. If I say a forge, a lot of people go, "Well, I work off like of an oven." And I'm like, no, no, no. You need the classic anvil, not even if you're going to use
Mhm.
it, just have it in the room.
Oh yeah, no, it was one of those things where I spent a lot of years being like corporate America, shirt and tie, no tattoos, no anything. So I kind of gave up on my childhood stuff. And I always wanted to be a ninja as a kid. That's the same look everybody gives me. And later on, I started doing a lot of art, got tired of that and all the bougie shit that went along with it. And like, you know what? I need another knife. And just went, started forging. So I started doing some knives, and about 5 years later, it's kind of my second career.
What was the first thing you crafted?
Oh, this just little, like, I wanted a chef's knife and it didn't turn out well. But, after a little bit of practice, started selling a few, got on a show called Forged and Fire, and here I am.
That's crazy because even making a chef's knife, the first thing that comes to my mind is making Thor's hammer. I know that's a challenge and a half to even tackle for your very first time, but I'm like, I don't care. It's just I would love to be able to wield the thing and be able to like I wish honestly you could throw it and it would come back to you. That's probably the most amazing thing about it to me. But with even knife making, I mean, where did that okay, because my knowledge from it comes from those knife commercials that used to come on at like 3 o'clock in the morning when you were too lazy to find the remote and change the channel. So it was like, we're selling 30,000 knives in this one store and we're closing out. It's like, what is happening right now? And the guy comes on screen. He's selling you all these rainbow custom knives. I mean, this was the era when I was getting obsessed with brass knuckles because I just thought, like, I saw the movie Rush Hour and I was like, that seems like a really freaking cool thing to either carry a shuriken or carry some brass knuckles around.
Yeah, it's a what we do is different. A lot of that is all pre-made in a factory. The only hands are just putting it together. Like, we start with raw steel, forge out the steel, shape it. There's a lot. It takes, you're looking at usually about 8 to 10 hours for a knife to come around. And that's actually split over days because you have a lot of processes in between that you have to go through.
How sensitive is it? Like, if you, is there any, I guess, possibility of having like a slip up in the middle of doing a process for it? Like, if you miss one single step and then the whole thing is just completely ruined.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say 25% of the time. You're forging a knife that takes maybe 2 hours in the forge. It's 1800 degrees blowing in your face. You got to go through a process of normalizing the steel so it doesn't crack when you quench. Sometimes that doesn't go right. Sometimes you have some impurities in the steel. You'll spend 2 or 3 hours forging, go to quench, and the thing just cracks.
So
It's just brittle as glass.
do you literally watch like the cowboy movies and think like, am I born in like the wrong time period? Like, this seems like where I'm supposed to be.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that. I kind of always say that. I am not made for this generation.
Well, okay. Well, you said, all right. So you say you've always said that. So what exactly do you find that doesn't fit in? Like, what would be a better time period? I would say that you should be born in? Because I feel like I should be born in like I don't know. I like public plumbing. I think that's an amazing invention that we created. But like just the whole gun thing, all this type of stuff, it's like I see much more better as like being able to pull out a sword if you get in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an argument with somebody. I feel like I could do pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree. The gun thing, I don't get it. I can romanticize a cool gun, but it's not my thing. I don't even own a gun. Um, Probably, I would say early 19th century, like right at the turn of where industry was just starting, would probably be my time. Steel mills just starting. So there were still craftsmen, and you could still kind of hash out a living as a craftsman.
Yeah, it wasn't seem like
Now,
we didn't have all these 3D like all right, that's got to be a big bugaboo for you is 3D printable technology. I mean, honestly, I think now that I'm starting to think about it, I'll be okay with just taking me before Facebook or MySpace was a thing.
oh yeah,
Honestly, I could handle MySpace. That doesn't seem like a big stressor. Bunch of people posting up weird selfies of themselves that they regret like 15, 20 years later. But like before Facebook was a thing, I think that's my time period. Like before like now it's just grandparents complaining. I mean, it's great if you own a business, but everything's so corporate when it comes to social media now. It's like it's amazing to see a craft like yours on there. But like it's even nowadays seeing it is more than buying the actual product for it, which is like you got into this business. I mean, for the love of the game of it, it has to be just a
oh
passion
yeah,
thing.
oh yeah. It's kind of see. I'm. How old are you?
I'm 22.
22. Son of a bitch. I'm 48. So it kind of like the 90s were my shit. Grunge era, everything was kind of DIY, post punk, and it was great, man. But you couldn't. It was getting into a time where a trade was looked down upon. Your parents wanted you to be in shirt and tie, corporate America. A trade was not a thing that you're supposed to be. So, like you said, before social media and before what it is now it's kind of coming back, but you have to be like artisan cheesemaker to really make some money, I guess, which is weird. But
Well, it's like the shift from craftsmanship went from like back in the day, let's say like doing something like blacksmithing or doing something that was extreme woodworking or carpentry. Now it's kind of has shifted into like the main common one I always hear about now when it comes to trade jobs like HVAC. Still trade work, still pretty. I mean, good job, good living to be in.
mhm.
But the concept of like how you're saying, it was a different era. And honestly, the weird perspective and shift of just how we've gone as a society is insane. Because like you look at like it's starting to come back, the punk era, all these types
Oh
of
yeah.
things are starting to come back. But it's like they got the fucking kid gloves on. Like
Mhm.
this isn't the real stuff. Like I picture back in the day, you're blacksmithing or something. If you hit your finger, you're like, deal with it. And you keep on moving. Now it's like I broke a nail. It's like it's still here, but it's just shifted into this whole thing. It seems like a whole generation gap that like there was a generation
Mhm.
that didn't even focus anything on working with their hands. And then now the millennials, like a lot of them are coming up like my age a little bit. They're like, let me find into this craft. And they realize, holy crap, I've been taught my whole entire life to study books and make sure I don't have to do this. And now I want to do this. And now I don't have the tools or I got to figure out what to do.
Yeah, you know what? It's Gen X's fault. Honestly, the society is now. We pussified our children. We I'm the blame. I am a helicopter parent. I've got two beautiful artistic children that they draw, they think, they create, but there's no like when I was growing up, you got beaten up all the time. I was just some long-haired kid that got beat up riding a skateboard.
And now you're
And my
forging the knives
kids,
that kill those people.
yeah. And now my kids are they're beautiful, wonderful people, but I kept them away from getting hurt. It's our fault as Gen Xers. We created a bunch of pussies.
There's a line to be drawn in the sand when it comes to, I mean, I'm not a parent, so correct me if I'm wrong, but just the aspect of you want to protect your kids because based on your
Mm-hmm.
upbringing, you don't want ever want something that you created to know pain like that, especially depending on how hard your upbringing is. Like, you want to keep them away from the dangers and the cruelness of the world. But then there's also a line where it's like, how much is too safe, to the point where they're going to be mindless or robotic, where it's just like, get a boring 9 to 5 job and not have any of that
Mhm.
expression or creativity. That's a fine line that gets drawn. I've seen a lot of parents make those mistakes when it comes to, like, my friends that are like, yeah, my parents never even taught me this. It's like, yeah, because we were safetied. We were like taught to do the safest thing possible because we were being invested in, like a bank investment.
Mhm.
But now it's like, with all this era of free range and creativity, we have to evolve with the times. Technology, that's a new form of art now. You can use 3D pen drawings. You can use all these things to create tattoos, when back in the day you had to put that on somebody's skin and listen to them bitch and complain about how you did the eyes wrong. And you're like, well, man, we don't have tattoo removal yet. So you're just going to have to let that sink in.
Oh yeah, it's we like me and my wife. We are luckily my wife owns a salon. She's a stylist. I've got my thing, but we from the beginning we never put a filter on our children, which it was just we do not people were all the same. We don't have any prejudices in this house. You do not bring them into this house. You learn things on your own. We've never shielded them from drugs. My kids have never drank. My kids have never done drugs, and they're adults. They just, I'm 75% covered in tattoos. My kids don't want a tattoo. There's nothing they can rebel against because we were always open about it. We watch something on DMT or whatever it might be. Like, hey, yeah, they got questions. Yeah, I've done it. I've done drugs. This is what the process is. We've always explained these things to them. We've never shielded them from anything. Even growing up, and like, look, there's two things when you start dating: don't do coke, always wear protection. Other than that,
So
there's nothing else I can tell you.
those are two strong guidelines to go by. But it's like, you really look at, like, what's happening now with all the generation. Everybody's starting a podcast that's my age. Everybody that's
Mm-hmm.
doing something that's on the media, everything that's being tracked. Everybody's putting up a Facebook post about what they did that night, or what they're doing tomorrow, or a picture with a beer or something in it. And it's like, I wonder what the future generations of our kids are going to be like. Hey, Dad, remember that time you said on a podcast that you took a shit in between two parked cars after a Ravens game in Baltimore? I'm like, I do remember that. And like, they're going to have questions, but that's there's the line again, because the line goes, you can tell them and be as everything, all the information, all the questions they ask, that they're going to have questions, but it falls into their hands of, where are they going to take it?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to try it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it once and then never do it again? Are they going to stay on this mindset of, I'm never going to try drugs, I'm never going to smoke a cigarette? And then that's just, you leave that up to their judgment. Hopefully you've instilled enough into them to where they're like, yeah, I know what's right and wrong. I shouldn't be taking PCP. And then, unless I'm writing lyrics to like a Grateful Dead song, I might try some LSD. But you got to look at those lines. And that's where I get obsessed with it, because I'm not a parent, but I love listening to parents and trying to understand that mindset of, because I think it's like that with anything you create. I
Mm-hmm.
love everything I've ever created. Anything where it's like, even if it's, honestly, I love it more if it makes it hours and hours and hours of me trying to draw something. I'm like, motherfucker, let me just get the hands right. I did this beautiful thing and I'm trying to get the hands right. But then once it's done, and after that painful process where I felt like I wanted to give up, I have so much more respect for it, because I look at it and, like, even if I take a nice poop, I'm still proud of that. I created that. So I'm like, that is what I'm saying, is that, like, anything that you create, if you're a creative person, even if you're just a normal person that just drew once, you are proud of that creation. And that's the same thing you can correlate to with being a parent, and on a bigger scale, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but still, it's that creation method.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like I tell them, look, I've given them freedom to do whatever they want, but they have never needed to do whatever they wanted. It was just, there was no going out and partying like we did. Like when I was growing up, that's what you did. You partied, you fought, you just took it to the streets. Like, I'm like, all right, you guys can do what you want to do. Just keep a few rules. But they just never, wanted to. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know. It's just one of them ones where, look, go to school, find something you love. I don't care if you make just rent money. If you're happy going to work every day and you're creative and you're enjoying your life, that's all that matters. I was growing up, oh, you got to get in to finance. You need to get a job where you wear a shirt and tie. You have to get a house and a boat and all this shit. And that was just a horrible thing to tell a kid that just wanted to skateboard and read comic books.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the era of the artist, that might be coming up. I don't think it really has truly happened yet. I know people talk, like we just talked about, like the way technology is kind of taken over the whole form of it, but it's like for this long period of time, your generation, my generation, even the generation in the middle and the generation before that, like you look at the factor of artistry was seen as you're going to be an artist. It's like being a musician. There's that
Mm-hmm.
0.1% chance that you make it or do anything.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like it's going to be a broke living. You're going to be scraping by, all this type of stuff. It's like, but we noticed, like, even with the virus and everything that happened, shit shut down, and a lot of people had a lot of free time. You're either fucking baking sourdough. I don't know how many people I've seen on Instagram with a sourdough or pastry account, and then, or you're doing something with starting your own business. And I think a lot of people took the time, like I did myself, where I picked up a paintbrush, and I hate fucking getting messy. I don't know where I didn't have a smock at the time. So I started painting and I got a little bit on my nice ass shirt. I was like, damn it, I just bought this. It was on sale. But I had so much fun creating this painting. It was a great expression of creativity. And I think that's going to start coming back, especially with, I feel like we needed that. We needed that settling to realize, like, hey, where's that creativity? Where's that spark? I mean, when you
Mm-hmm.
were a kid, did you ever think at any point in your life you were going to turn to just doing art for a living or even turning into blacksmithing?
You know what? That was my dream. Like I grew up in a little town in Ohio on the river. It was all steel workers and men, and I'm like the long haired dude skateboarding, and I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to make music and I'm going to change things. And, growing up in that environment, it was like, yeah, go hang out with your faggot friends and we'll see what happens. You need to get a job in a steel mill. I'm like, that's not what I want to do. So I was punched straight down. I was never given the opportunity. But in my heart, I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. It took a lot of years to figure it out and really get my life to a point of where I can do it. But once I did, man, that's where even with the kids, I'm like, hey, you follow your dream. You'll make it or you'll fail, but at least you've chased that dream.
Yeah,
And don't.
you don't want to leave the world without like with any regrets on the table. I mean,
Oh no, you don't
how
want to
many?
spend 20 years in a shirt and tie sucking corporate dick,
Oh, dude,
and
let me tell you
then
something. I'm not a 9 to 5 person, and I'm not a suit and tie person. I actually left my nice ass career at a casino where I could have stayed in that, got my benefits, got everything. But I was like, I can't do the suit. I can't do the
mm,
tucked in shirt with the tie, I can't. It's just that whole, it felt so out of place. And I'm like, anybody that is in that place right now where it's like putting on something you just feel like you're wearing, like you just rolled around in mud, like you're icky. I was like, how many people are living that right now because they have to? What do they want to do?
oh, 100%. Like my full time job sucks a dick, but it's what I need to do because you got to have health insurance, you got to have the house and all that. But I won't let my kids go down that route. It's just I'm like my son has a degree in psychology and was working at Starbucks. I'm like, you need to quit. You're going to be stuck there. You're going to fucking hate it. It's going to ruin your life. And luckily, he did. Now he has a job that he loves, working with kids.
Yeah, but the Starbucks hookup though, you should have let him stay in that just to get like a free caramel macchiato.
Yeah, well, that was actually pretty cool. But I know he didn't quit. About 4 months ago, right when COVID was real big in South Carolina, a woman came in. They were only letting a certain amount of people in the door, like two or three at a time. And he told us she came in and would not wear a mask, and this was mandatory. You can't come in without a mask. He told her, look, you can't come in, you got a mask on, and made her cry because of that. And they fired him because she wouldn't play along.
That's see, this is when you have to. All right, would it be illegal if you're gonna wear a mask? Would it be illegal to craft your own mask, but have like a steel helmet? Because I've seen some. I know someone. My buddy Marv mentioned to me that he was really hoping they'd make badass masks, and I'm like, dude, they have an Alien versus Predator mask. I'm like, I want to see this type of shit. If we're going to be creative and if we're going to do something, let's do it in a creative way. It's going to make people enjoy it and want to do it a lot more. The sad thing is you're buying the fucking cheap plastic ones or something and they're uncomfortable. I was like, but if you create it, you're going to love it. So we might as well just roll with the skid here and just create one.
Oh, I totally agree. Like my daughter's got a plague mask, the big
no way, one. The doctor.
I'm like, well, I'm going to wear it to work. I had to really step back from that one. That was probably a terrible idea, but yeah, it was. I wear just a bandana. I won't wear the masks, but I wear a bandana everywhere I go to make other people comfortable.
That's kind of the point of the bandana. I don't think it's because you can still go underneath, I guess. But the doctor thing, holy shit! Like, imagine getting in a car with that. Like, did the whole beak slamming into the steering wheel and everything?
Oh, well, you know what I do is for my day job, it's a lot of moving and a lot of cardio and trying to wear that mask, and I've got allergies and it just sucks. So it's easier to breathe.
Have you had any thoughts like, I know, because like we said, you're not really doing this for like obviously money, because it's like that's kind of a low niche for blacksmithing unless you're gonna maybe sell to like a giant corporate like cooking company or something.
Yeah.
But what's give me an idea you've had where you're like, I want to create this. This will be badass to make.
Really, as far as creating like what I make, my knives are pretty dope, I think. But being on the TV show I was on, I got a real group of friends all over the United States now. And I've got some real close friends, and we've talked about, let's start a business. Let's do this. We all get together, we start some kind of thing. I've got some friends back up in Ohio, and even me and my wife decided once we retire, which I've only got another 15 years, go there. We start a big business and start selling wholesale. And it can be done. It's just you need more than one person. And finding people that are like-minded is very difficult.
Can I still want to go on that point, but can I shoot two ideas at you?
Yeah.
One, start a cult. Freemasons, you had it all perfect. You said you met people from all around the United States that would come together in this conglomerate. You could start something like the Freemasons. That is a cult. You could sell to political people. Like you could sell the QAnon, the Edinburgh Grove thing or whatever it is, the Bohemian Grove with the giant wood effigy. Let's just build them a nice ass metal statue of like.
Oh yeah.
Actually, that's probably a bad avenue. Statues are being taken down everywhere.
Just do big Moloch statues and.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about. The reason why I think about that is because when I think of blacksmithing, I don't know if you've ever played the game by Jack Black with his band Tenacious D, but they have a song called The Metal. And listening to that song, the whole game he has called Brutal Legend is based on you go to this land where there's blacksmithing, there's sword fighting, there's axes, there's guitar playing, instruments make loud explosions and stuff. But the metal is a beast. It's a metal giant demonic thing, like something you would. And Ozzy Osbourne rides it. So you're like, whenever I hear blacksmithing, I see a knife or I see something like really shiny metal. Besides getting distracted heavily, I think of that. Like it's an insane thing. Like I mean, it's not an easy craft to go down. And then the second avenue I was going to toss at you was damn, I just went off on the metal thing. I'm thinking about metal now. Oh yeah. You have the Freemason. Are you a Freemason? Oh my God, are you a Freemason?
Wait a minute. Wait, I can even better this.
Hold on a second, everybody. He's a Freemason. Oh my God, I have questions. We're going down an avenue. What is this? Is that a guidebook? Blacksmith Gods? You have both the things I was saying. Please explain to me these two things.
Okay. So you say this, and I've got some, because I've been in the esoteric for about 30 years now. And with Masons, a lot of it's a weird mixture of high magic, which these guys don't even understand what they're doing. But I was with a friend, actually my tattoo artist, and I'm like, so this parallels the square and all this parallels with blacksmithing. You have the anvil and the hammer, and it's a parallel. So I have started to work on not a cult, but just an idea of a blacksmith fraternity.
That's the whole thing. Like when I say cult, I use that very, very loosely.
Oh yeah.
With how it's evolved, I think back in the day it was definitely the Freemasons was definitely like a cult type thing. But I think what it's turned into now, like even in my town, there's people that I know that I work with that wear Freemasons ring, but none of the information that gets involved into the club ever leaves the club. It stays with the organization of brothers. And I'm like, it's classically a fraternity now. I believe there was old methods and styles and stuff that they go by that used to be old school magic type stuff, but
oh yeah.
think nowadays it's more about getting together with friends, because I mean it's like you said, finding like-minded people is so fucking difficult in today's time. And that's what's amazing about, like, if you want to use social media for a benefit, hashtags. If you look up a hashtag blacksmith, you're coming across other people that love the same thing you're doing, which sadly, if you're looking up the hashtag blacksmith, a lot of them are from another country. So you might need to pick up another language. But it's still fun because you get to create your own group, get to meet some awesome people, follow their pages, and then you guys get to create your little organization.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I totally what it was. Even when I joined the Masons, I'm like, I'm looking for a fraternity of somebody. Yeah, I'm an old man. I got, I'm not from this area. I'm like, I got to find some people. And then things fall into place in my life. I'm not a practicing Mason any longer, really. There was a lot of, man, I went in with all intentions of wanting all the mysteries of the universe, and you get an apron and a fried fish sandwich. That's about it.
You got a fried fish sandwich?
Yeah, you like there's not like the mysteries of the universe and all the things that people say about the Masons. None of it's true. Originally, there was a lot of high magic that went along with it, but now it's just a bunch of old men, old white guys.
Do they ever talk about any of the old magic stuff, or do you ever try and look up to? I mean, you said looking for the secrets of the universe. Did you ever try and do your own research on that type of stuff?
Yeah, there's because I even went to a couple or one guy that I knew real well, and I'm like, so, what you're doing is high magic, and they're like, I don't know what that is. We just have to learn things from a book.
Okay.
I'm like, you're doing ritual. You're doing things that would be looked down upon in normal society as witchcraft. I'm like, oh no. This is just we have to learn things out of a book, and they don't get the esoterics of any of it. There's none of them that, at least not none, but the majority of them just have no idea what they're. It's like when they go to church and they just randomly read out of a book. There's no magic to it any longer. It's just a bunch of white guys.
Especially like I'm not knocking religion here. I'm just saying when it comes to like going to church or something, it's more like when I was a little kid, I was involved with that only because my cousin is super religious. So like if I spent the night at my cousin's house, I would try to leave on Sunday so I didn't have to stay for church. And I would always get dragged in, but it was like open page 36 or something, and then we're reading out of a paragraph thing, but I'm like sitting there like looking around like I'm just doing it because I'm in a church. Like this is the whole mindset. I think that's what it is. I think people are just malleable. People are just really easily manipulated on stuff, and I'm like, I want to know that. I wish honestly a lot of that stuff was real. The magic behind it, like as far as I know, it's not. I hope it is.
It is
because. All right, okay. Why do you say that?
Just because I've been following what the occult, which is just basically the occult means hidden knowledge.
Mhm.
So I've followed this since I was about 15. I grew up Roman Catholic, like devout Roman Catholic, and I wanted to be a priest. And then at 14, I lost it. I lost my religion, and I searched for years, so every religion, every study I could to figure out the meaning of all of it. And finally, in my 40s, I finally figured it out to where it means something to me. But it's difficult. It's a long road.
Have you ever tried to perform a ritual?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay, can you explain a little bit on that? Because I mean, I've heard stories of like, I had this one story. I met this guy at a Christmas Eve party, and my mom's like, he's been shouting the same fucking story for like 30 years. I think it might be true because this lady that he is talking about runs our newspaper in town. So everyone's like, no way it can be her. But he talked about he was drunk in his 20s when my town of Ocean City was still becoming a thing, back when they had payphones and shit. And he goes, this this, I thought I was going to get with this girl and I was drunk. So I started taking all my clothes off. And next thing I know, I'm tied up to a chair and she had a bunch of friends come out all dressed up in robes and they're spattering, I think, chicken blood on me. I didn't know what it was. It was red. It could have been paint. But I remember he gives this long, narrowing story of an escape and he jumped out of a window and lost his loafer. And he kept complaining about the loafer. But then he was sitting on a bench and his buddies picked him up and then he went golfing like an hour or two later, or whatever. It was morning time around that. And I'm like, I get it. Why? Because I think it's honestly with the ritual thing, it's something I definitely would like to see just because of the aspect of like, it goes back to even not all rituals are bad. Not all rituals like I want to
Mm-hmm.
kill somebody. Some are just like you do a blessing before you walk into the forage. You know what I mean? Like I would bless the Hephaestus or something, the god, Greek
Yeah.
god of the blacksmith.
Oh yeah. It's with that. That story sounds like crap to me.
He's been saying
Um,
it for 30 something years. I think she was in a not I'm not in a real pagan one, but she was in a um and coming from everybody that was at the Christmas parties, like we honestly think it's true. But it might have been pain. It wasn't chicken blood, but he said a bunch of girls came out wearing robes, had him tied to a chair, and he was drunk, and they were spattering stuff on him, and then he escaped and jumped out of a window, and then had to call a cab.
yeah, it sounds kind of like a uh, fraternity prank. Yeah, that's not the way that that kind of thing works.
I don't know. I
It's a
believe
little
if you're
different.
summoned into Satan, you can do whatever you want.
No, not so much. Man, there's not a bunch of hot chicks in robes throwing
He
blood on you. That's
he
just not going to
he
happen.
never said they were hot. He said he had one hot chick and then a bunch of people came out in robes. So if it was a fraternity prank, maybe. I'm not doing the story justice, but I believe that you can have a crazy night or a hookup with a chick, and next thing you know, she's into some dark magic type stuff. I mean, honestly, could it be the real dark magic, like out of like the book that's made of somebody's skin that's written in blood lettering? No, I believe it's something they pulled off the fucking internet, or they pulled off some type of old book they found at a store. Like, I'm gonna do this. It says sacrifice a goat, so you got to find a goat.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. Most of the time, ritual and I'm not a high magic guy, which is the big Crowley kind of stuff. The OTO.
The
It's like these
magisters, yeah.
huge rituals with the robes and the whole thing. I'm more of a pagan kind of guy. There's a couple schools that you can follow. There's Wiccan, there's witchcraft, there's the easiest one is chaos magic. And it's really a sigil magic where you're putting your intentions into a sigil and releasing that into the ether. The universe wants you to be happy. So just putting your intentions out there is really it's all magic. It's kind of like, and I hate to say it, but man, what was it called? It came out shit. It was a positive thinking thing. I can't. The Secret.
The secret.
It's yeah, it's like a Oprah Winfrey kind of like positivity, intentions kind of thing.
Okay, kind of like putting
It's
good vibrations out there, like karma a
yeah,
little bit.
sorta. but you can create, you just create your own. Nothing is true, everything is permitted, is kind of the motto.
It's fucking Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And nothing is true. Everything is permitted. That's great.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's really no, what's the difference between a spell and a prayer at church?
That's true.
Really nothing.
I think it all boils down to I've always been fascinated with it, just on the aspect of like dark magic. I know some people that practice like studying demonology, studying all these things, because it was always seen like banned when I was a kid was like stay away from a Ouija board, stay away from this thing. So I'm like, you can either scare them so much that they don't want to go into it, or you could
Hmm.
scare them, or you could say it so much that they're like, I need to find this out for myself if this is really true. And I'm like, honestly, I mean, it goes with the whole stick of doing blacksmithing for sure. I think, I'm that type of guy that like blacksmith seems like an old style craft for me. It seems like a medieval, very old style, pray to the gods type style thinking. Mostly on every game I've played that's involved, it's like Minecraft and shit, where it's like, old school, like Assassin's Creed style stuff. So I'm like, I would want to go all out into that persona. I would want to live that lifestyle because I think that's the true way of really endorse or I guess immersing yourself into a craft. When
Hmm.
you're doing something, when you got to put your 100% into all of it. But if I'm dressing in a snapback hat, if I'm wearing fucking leggings, yoga pants, all these types of things, and a tank top or whatever, the necklace with the beads. Remember the back in the day when they had the puka shell necklaces? Those pieces, those
I
things
had a
that
puka shell necklace.
they fucking sucked. Um, I hate. They always pinched my neck hair for some reason. But wearing one of those things, I can't be at a forge looking like that. I can't look like Ric Flair or somebody at a black. I would have to dress in some crappy clothing, or maybe a hoodie, and then put an apron on. And I would have to go
Hmm.
up there with like not having to worry about taking a shower if I'm going to get dirty. Black grease on the face and everything
Oh
from
yeah.
touching your hands because you're sweating and everything. That's what you want to immerse yourself in. Once you get yourself, like they say, clothes make the man. Well, clothes can make anything that you really do, not just clothes, but the overall vibe that you're giving off. So if you walk in doing like, I pray or your blessings upon me for whatever this I'm about to create. Maybe next thing you know, you're sitting there thinking, what am I going to create? Am I going to create a knife? I don't know. And then you get this random bam, this idea that just hits you out of nowhere. And you could be like, well, thank you. That could
Hmm.
be just a blessing you did.
A lot of what I do, because I'll give classes, and I try to explain, I'll get guys your age, and I'm like, all right, this is difficult. This is going to be, you're sore. You're swinging a hammer. It's hot. You're getting burned. Oh, no, no, everything's cool. 10 minutes into it, they're like swinging their shoulder because it hurts. You know, and then when I go to do shows and sell things, it's nice because people are really interested in what I do and how I do it. Instead of when it was the art field, it was like, well, what's the meaning? Like, well, there's no meaning. This is what it is. Now people are more interested in the process instead of all the meaning and all that. But going back to it becoming like, we'll do railroad spike knives, and I'll have them pounded out, and I'm like, follow the shape. There's a shape here now. It's what it wants to be. This is not just, we can make it into a shape that you draw, but there's a line that it follows. So we're going to take that line, and that's what your knife's going to become. So I always teach what that steel wants to be is what it's going to end up being. There's a real life to it because the way it comes out, man, you can definitely see the shape, and that's what it wants to do. We're not
Kind of
going to retard it and make it something else.
kind of like the concept of like you can tell a horse its whole life that it's a donkey, but it'll always be a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're
Yep.
able to see the shape. You're kind of envisioning when the piece comes out. Let's say like if you're working off raw or junky materials, such as like let's say you're working off something that's like all messed up, banged up, somebody dropped it off a truck, you got it at a discount price. You ever been to Home Depot and they're like, oh, this piece of wood's chipped, we're gonna knock it off half price for you or something like that, and you
Yeah.
look at it like, well, I can't this is not enough to make into a birdhouse. So I'm not going to try and make it into a birdhouse. I'm going to try and envision what this thing can go into.
Mhm.
That's the same thing when you see a piece of metal and you're crafting it out. You're trying to figure out,
Exactly.
like, kind of like when you're hitting it, it doesn't even feel like you're really putting the it's not like you're molding it with your hands. It's more of the concept of like you're just flowing with it. You're
Yep.
hitting it and watching it become what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like that universal. The universe wants it to be what it is. So, let's just follow the design. You're birthing something. So you're giving this item life. So what it becomes and what it looks like is what the steel wants it to be.
So you're kind of
And
you're really the
and it's
hammer.
kind of weird that you said Home Depot because I am a manager at a home improvement warehouse,
Oh,
which is
shit.
not Home Depot.
Okay. Well, let me tell you
Nice
something.
synchronicity.
I love Home Depot. I just can never find anybody that tries to help me find anything I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm the other box store.
Well, hey, but seriously though, so like you're kind of the hammer. Really, you're the hammer, and then there's these two forces that you're basically helping collide together. You're helping them
Hmm.
form.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just I don't ever really set out with a design unless it's a customer that wants something specific. I set out, and as I'm going, it finds its way. It flows. There's a flow to it, and whatever it comes out, that's what it is.
Do you ever find it difficult to get exactly what a person wants, or are you just basing it off of like kind of like when you're doing a tattoo? Like I would like a octopus hugging the sun, and then you're like, okay, well, this is what I can do, and then they give you a template of what their design would be. Is that what you do with the knives? Like somebody just goes, I would like a nice knife to cut pineapple in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's actually do my best to stay away from customs because it's always some weird. I need two different cutting edges, and I need this on top so I can cut a tree down, and I need this big thing that I'm like, and then I need it to be this certain. I'm like, look, dude, I can do it, and I've done it. And you take it to the person like, oh no, that's not what I was thinking. I'm
Who
like,
the
well,
who is buying your shit? Daniel Boone?
yeah, nuts, insane people. I'm like, oh, I need a saw in the back, and I need it to be able to cut. I'm like, get in. All right, here's a knife, and here is a saw. There you go. You're set. You can't put everything into one knife.
That's like the Swiss Army guy. I bet that's you're the guy who told the Swiss Army guy he couldn't put everything into one knife, and that motherfucker made a knife that has a toenail clippers and everything in it.
Oh, dude, that's what I get. I get like, and then when you do the sheath, can you put a fire starter in there and maybe a compass of some sort? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm not charging you that much money. So, but yeah, I've had guys that, oh, that's not what I wanted after I put 15 hours into something.
Does it ever fascinate you when you find out like somebody made a sword into a gun, like the rapiers? Um,
Yeah,
one of those had a gun on the end of it.
it somebody had to.
I know, but don't you? Do you ever get ideas like that? Like I'm thinking already. Like I would like a nice like buck knife, but at the end the cap pops off. I have a buck knife. I'm fascinated with knives. I asked for
Yeah.
one thing for Christmas from my buddy, and he bought me a giant ass buck knife. He's like, "Why?" He's like, "You're not a cowboy, and you don't wear pants ever." And I'm not saying I walk out naked, but I wear board shorts or I wear like shorts. He's like, "That thing is the size of your femur. Why do you want it?" I'm like, "Cause it looks badass." But
Yeah.
the end of it, I would like to have like a Tic Tac holder where it's filled with Tic Tacs, so I can just pop
Uh,
them out.
How about a Pez dispenser?
Fuck yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
that's way better than Tic Tacs. Pez's are
Yeah.
like actually edible. Tic Tacs like chip your teeth.
No, I know what to send you for Christmas.
Well, it's that time of year.
Nah.
Well, no, seriously, like that. It's pretty cool. Like, do you ever get one of those ideas though? Like something as, I mean, that's an amazing input. Like, see, like I said, tattoo artists, where you have another insight into it. Like, that's what you need. Like, if you're my blacksmith, if coming to you for a knife, I said, sir, my horse just bucked a shoe. I need you to give my horse a shoe. You said, okay, I can do that, or you can just buy a car like everybody fucking else. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess so. But you'll be able to craft me what I want based on what you know you're good at and also what you can feel more. I think,
Mhm.
like we talk about feeling out like a piece, for instance, you can hammer it into something, but it's going to turn into what it's got to turn into. That's the same way when you got to feel something. You can know where to take something if you're going to make it, if it's going to work, if it's not. But it seems like everybody wants this exact image. And I'm like, that's never going to happen unless you try and create it on your own.
No, no, it's just one of the things where I'd rather just make the things, post them on the website, or go to a show and just then somebody falls in love with it. There's no intermediate. There's no. It's just this. Here it is. You love it. Awesome. Buy it. Not the back and forth emails. Do you like this handle? Do you like this? It's just a pain in the ass. I just rather not do it.
If you were going to make a knife, let's say if you're going to create a knife for a certain occasion, what occasion do you find that you would, I guess, most want to work for? Like, if I'm coming to you and I said I want something, I want you to create it in whatever you're going to create it. I want you to make it for if it's set up for wilderness, if it's set up for kitchen, if it's set up for whatever. What do you find the most passionate about? Because I feel like wilderness knives, you can go way more insane with them.
You can. You can. I do a lot of them, but I don't particularly like them. It's not my favorite. I'd rather do a really awesome chef's knife. There's
Okay.
something about, because I'll sell a lot of bushcraft knives that will never see the bush. People buy them and they'll never use them. But a chef's knife, you're going to create with that knife. You're going to cook, you're going to feed yourself every day. You could use that. I have more passion for chef's knives.
Okay. Can you, are we talking about when we say chef's knives? What occasion are you thinking that they're going to be used in? Like turkey dinners? Or are you looking for more of like,
Oh yeah, everything.
everybody has the ceremonial knife where it's like, this is the knife I pull out with when all of
Yeah.
the family members come into town from whatever 5 states away, where we're going to cut the turkey with this knife. And then there's the average everyday use one, which is more fucking relevant to a situation, which is like, I have all my
I'd
kitchen
rather have everyday use.
everyday use. Okay.
Yeah, definitely everyday use. I just sent 2 chef's knives to a chef in Denali State Forest in Alaska that will be used every day. So it's kind of like one of those, it's another creative outlet of like, he's going to use my knives to make beautiful food for people every day of his life.
Do you find that you can probably go a little bit more into like the wild side too on things of when it comes into the kitchen? You could use barbecue. Those barbecue grill guys,
Mm-hmm.
they're always looking for something, and you can go crazy as hell with that because they're cooking outside. You can pull out a fucking knife/spatula in an instance.
Oh, yeah. And I've done that. I'll do like knife sets and spatula grill sets and things like that. They sell really well. There's something about, especially being in the South, everyone's cooking barbecue,
Yeah.
but I like things that are going to be used. It's functional art. When somebody buys it and I know they're never going to use it, it's cool, but it,
It's like
it doesn't mean as much.
it's like when I got a BMX bike for Christmas when I was like 15. I was so fucking happy. It's the only bike I ever wanted. But then I was like so worried about getting a scratch on it that I wasn't really using it. And then as soon as I like dropped it on the road one time and it got a bunch of scratches on it, I'm like, fuck it. And then I just started rolling with it and it became like an everyday use type thing. That's
Mhm.
that's the thing though, is everybody sees all the stuff that's like presented like it's an amazing Damascus knife and it's engraved and bleached and all these types of things and the tears of an angel, and you're just like, I'm going to put that on my wall. But it's like, then what's the use of the whole purpose of having a knife? Is a decoration? It's like having a fucking bookshelf in your house and never reading a book. You just want people to think you're smart. It's
Mhm.
bullshit and I don't like it.
No, yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I'm going to make it. I want you to use it. I want you to beat the hell out of it. If something happens, send it back to me. I'll sharpen it. I'll fix the handle, whatever it might be. But use it. Don't just lay it around. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Tools are meant to be broken. but they're also meant to be repaired.
Mhm. No, yeah. No, I make sure. I'm like, man, like I've got people that they use my knives all the time and they'll bring them up here. Just bring it up. We'll sharpen it, hang out in the forge with me. I make a day out of it for people.
You got to make an adventure. Well, Aaron, why don't you tell people where they can find you at, man?
Instagram, Noble Savage Forge. I also have noblesavageforge.com. And if you're in the Spartanburg, South Carolina area, I'm always around. I give classes, so you can always get a hold of me.
If I come down and visit, can you do two things for me?
Yeah.
One, I want to attend one of your classes and learn a little bit. And the second one, I want help with the Freemasons.
Okay.
That one didn't seem as
Not a problem.
confirmation as the first one. Well, thank you, Aaron, for being on this episode.
I can show you some things.
Okay. Show me some things.
You're welcome, man.
I hope you have a wonderful day, man. And thanks for listening to this episode Out of the Blank.